Welcome back,
Awesome.
everyone. In this next session, we'll be moving into a conversation many people truly carry quietly, and that's money and safety and the nervous system. Joy Baker, a spiritual healer and transformational coach, joins us for this really powerful conversation. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra, for having me on your show. And yeah, now that we got that figured out, we can go ahead with this.
There we
That's
go.
awesome.
So, why do so many people, Joy, why do you think they do all the right things, manifesting, doing the affirmations, doing budgeting, yet they still struggle to hold abundance in their life?
Yeah, and we've all been there. That's a great question. Well, there's a couple things. If you're doing everything right, you're doing the manifestation and you're emotionally connecting to your vision and you're taking action, but there's a part of you that believes it's not possible. So you're taking the action, even emotionally connecting to that vision. But there's a small voice within your unconscious self, your nervous system that is saying that's not possible. Then you will self sabotage. And that's often what we do. We get really pumped up, we get really connected to it, and then we'll self sabotage just when it comes, especially just when it's about time to happen. Whether a person is about to come into our life, or the money is going to show up, or something like that is going to happen, we'll go into self sabotage. And often that's through the words we use towards ourselves. We'll start using words, well, why did I do that? How did I get that wrong again? How did I mess up? Then we start to feel heavy, and then everything slows down. And we've all had that experience. And so I would say one of the things you can ask, and I always share with my clients, I love this statement, so simple: what if it's possible? Because when you start, what if bypasses the resistance of the ego mind? It is something greater, that's your vision. And then saying possible over and over again, it opens up the energy within you and your energy field, and it allows possibilities and opportunities in. So if you're manifesting and taking all the steps and what you want just isn't showing up, then start saying, well, what if it's possible? What if it's possible? What if it's possible? And I've done this several times in my life. And eventually you're fine. The mind, you hear your mind go, it's possible, it's possible. And then it's like your unconscious self comes into alignment with your conscious self. And that's when flow starts to happen.
That's
And
beautiful. And I'll be honest with you, I sort of feel like that was some of the mantra that went on with getting the summit together and pulling in some of the topics and the people. So there's some real life experience there for me. So, Joy, can you help me understand how the nervous system can carry ancestral money trauma, even when someone really is not necessarily conscious of that?
absolutely, sure. So, as you know, we're energy. Everything is energy. The people who came before us, they're still part of this world. Their energy is, part of us. Our lives, all that energy, it's all energy. So in the quantum world, it's all happening now. And so those memories, let's say whether you had a past life or your ancestors had past lives, and we've gone through all kinds of stuff in past lives, where you live lives of poverty or even homeless, or you had to do things you didn't want to do to make money to survive. If that, and generally in past lives, I mean, we weren't processing or, doing our inner work. That's really just started happening now. And that gets passed down. Now, plus you've got when you grow up, and like my parents went bankrupt. And so I carried on that pattern of scarcity. I went bankrupt twice, actually. And mainly because I just didn't think I was worth making money beyond just survival. And so I actually went bankrupt twice. And it wasn't until I started following my passion, which is healing and energy work, that the money situation started to change. So now you've got, let's say your parents went, either they never had enough money, you're on the verge of homelessness, or like my parents, they declared bankruptcy. So there's always, and I was, being a very sensitive, child, I was, and understanding money, well, the way my parents, we learned it, I was always worried about, is there going to be enough food? Are we going to be able to pay, our bills? I mean, this is at like 9, 10, 11 years old, 12 years old. I was worried about this. And so I carried that so that got stuck in my nervous system, not the actual thought of how we're going to pay for this, but the energy of that. And that fear and worry, that now gets stuck in every cell of your being, and your nervous system affects, your entire body. So the body is always worried about, your mind body's always worried about, well, how is the money going to show up? And money, we need money for everything. Money is our safety and security in this world. And if we don't have that sense of safety and security, then you get stuck in the lower dimensions, the heavier thinking, the limited thinking, the limitations and scarcity and such. And it's like you just keep repeating over and over again. And that's where, manifestation comes in. So let's say you're stuck in that pattern of always being on edge. Am I going to run out of money? Well, if I'm not. And then as a child, we develop coping strategies that ensure our survival, because we need our parents, the big people, to take care of us. So we develop these coping strategies that as adults, they don't appear they're related directly to money, but we're now living and behaving according to these coping strategies we developed as a child. People pleasing is a big one. So I have to please others in order to ensure my needs are met. Now, it might not appear to be directly related to money, but money affects everything. And so if you're into people pleasing and you learn that as a child, you're pleasing others, it might now be for approval or validation or acceptance, but it's all energy and it's affecting. In other words, you're keeping yourself restricted, you're keeping your energy field restricted, your thoughts, your behaviors, your ways of being. That affects money. It's not like it's separate. So it all works together. So that fear and worry and anxiety it's about your survival growing up. And or let's say your parents had lots of money, but they always said, you're not good enough. You can't have this unless you do that, or unless you look this way or this weight, or you behave this way, you get these grades. Yeah, we'll reward you with money. So money itself wasn't an issue, but it was your way of being. All that gets stuck at a cellular level in your nervous system. And so now, let's say you're doing all the manifestation steps, you're taking that action, and you're emotionally connecting, because your emotions can act like a magnet, to your vision, and you to your vision, and your vision to you. And you're taking all those steps, but you're still doing the same childhood coping strategies of people pleasing and giving up your sense of power, your autonomy, your sense of self to ensure that others like you. These are all behaviors we learn as a child. Well, that is affecting, let's say your vision, let's say you've got some kind of vision or manifestation you want to actualize into your life. But that means you're having greater experiences, you're connecting with more people, you're interacting, you're doing things in a bigger way. But that means if you carry those same behaviors out into that bigger, it's like a bigger world, a bigger universe, it doesn't work, because you're carrying those behaviors of scarcity and lack and limitation and need out into abundance. And it's like two different dimensions. And so start believing that it's possible, but also, as you imagine, let's say whether it's buying a house, a car, travel, it's, whatever somebody wants to manifest, how are you going to feel? Empowered, confident, full of gratitude, appreciated, laughing, having fun, and really feel that and imagine your body feels that. Your mind, your body, you feel. So just imagine sitting up or standing up and feeling grounded. You put, as you walk, every foot, you feel it. You're confident, you're grounded, you're feeling good. You look around and life feels expansive and you're smiling and you notice people are smiling back at you. That's how you want to feel when you manifest that. And yeah, and I can feel some resistance coming up like in the field here because people are saying, oh, but I'm only safe if I'm playing small. And so that one of the techniques I used extensively for probably 20 years was EFT, emotional freedom technique, the tapping
Oh,
technique.
love
Like,
tapping.
yeah, anything like that. I'm only safe when I play small. All you have to do is tap. And that releases, see, these are meridian endpoints, and your meridians, that's the energy the energy flows along your meridians. And so if you've got a belief such as I'm only safe when I play small, and then that of course affects the money, then when you tap, what it does, it doesn't release the belief per se, but it releases emotional attachment to that. And so energy starts to move. And then as you release emotional attachment to that, your energy starts to expand. You let go of that. And then you can more powerfully connect to your vision and feeling confident and grounded and expansive and joyful and enjoying and experiencing heartfelt connections with others, uplifting connections with others. And it is possible. And if any part of you is saying, oh, I'm not sure, we'll say, what if it is possible? What if it's possible for me to feel good and safe when feeling confident and grounded? What if it's possible for me to interact with others and have amazing interactions where I walk away and I feel inspired and joyful and I'm seeing things from new points of view? What if it's possible? And as you say that more and more, I like to walk, I'm a big walker, and I would go for walks and just keep saying, what if it's possible? What if it's possible? What if it's possible? And because I think about what I want to do, this was about the time I started this healing business or just before, and I started saying, what if it's possible? And my ego mind would come in and say, well, it's not, and would give me all these excuses and all the evidence and stories why it's not possible. And I'd say, okay, well, what if it is possible? And I'd keep bringing myself back to that. What if it's possible? What if it's possible? And eventually my mind started saying it's possible. And I actually did that for 2 years before I got on my first podcast and started building my business. So, yeah, what if it's possible? It's played a big part in my life and where I am now.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that. And that's such a simple tool and it's very powerful. So a lot of what you talked about was very 3D consciousness. And is that what you mean by emotional imprints when you were talking about like the childhood things with your parents and the money scarcity?
Yeah,
So
that would be, go ahead.
so what are your thoughts about how does shifting into a more 5D oriented consciousness change abundance from something that we try to force to something that could actually naturally flow?
Awesome. Good question. So in 5D consciousness, it's flow. And so think of it the easiest way. I like simple explanation. So the simplest way to understand the dimensions, the third dimension, which we've all been birthed into for thousands of years, we're all very familiar with it. It's fear based and it's all about lack, limitation, scarcity, and worry, doubt, and such. So think of fear as a thread that holds all those beliefs, the thoughts, the emotions, the behaviors, the ways of being, all that together. Okay, now the fifth dimension, that the thread that holds that all together is divine love. And so it's like a thread that holds everything together and all the emotions that align with divine love: happiness, joyfulness, gratitude, fun, laughter, compassion, understanding. And abundance is part of that. In that realm, abundance flows. And so the fourth dimension is it's like a tunnel or a portal between the two of them. So you've got the fear-based third dimension, the love-based fifth dimension, and the dimension in between that. Think of a portal or a tunnel, and that's when you're doing your inner work, That's when you have the aha moments, and oh, okay, that's, you figured it out, you're in the fourth dimension. So it's like a gateway or an entrance into the higher dimensions. And where many people get stuck or things don't really change is, let's say you're doing your inner work around money, and you've had all these realizations and awareness, and oh, okay, that's why I'm stuck. And we've all done that. It's like, oh, and it feels so good. You relax, the stress is gone, it feels so good. But often we stop there, and most often, that's where we stop. Okay, I feel good, that's been figured out. But you're still in the fourth dimension. What you want to do is get to that fifth dimension, the higher dimensions of love and beauty and grace and abundance and flow and ease. And so that's where you have your vision. It's like, okay, let go of that, feeling relaxed and at ease. And now you've got this vision of something greater. And then that vision takes you into the higher dimensions, fifth dimension and above, and you're feeling relaxed and at ease and full of gratitude. And in that moment of expansion and relaxation, that's when you can powerfully connect to your vision. Now, we go back between dimensions. We're here to cycle between the dimensions. Some people will feel, so good, and you feel like your vision is coming in, but then they get down on themselves because they go back to that third dimension. But we're here as light workers. We are here to see the light. So you spend time in the fifth dimension in that flow and ease, and that's when money flows to you. And you say, oh my gosh, how did that happen? But then let's say an unexpected bill comes in, or your child or your parent or your dog or something like that there's an unexpected bill. And well, you haven't messed up, you haven't done anything wrong, you're going back to the third dimension because you're seeding that light, because you just spent time in the higher dimensions. That's why you're here. That's your purpose. Even if you're not working as a healer or an energy worker, you are living your purpose by cycling through the dimensions. Ascension is when it's not about staying in one dimension, just the feel good dimensions. It's about how quickly you can go back to the third dimension and use everything you've learned and understood and all the tools to get out of that heaviness and the density and the limitation. In other words, let's say an unexpected bill comes in, and at first maybe that would set somebody back for a few days or a few weeks, or just you're stuck in that heaviness and lack and limitation. Now, because you're on this path of this journey of awareness, now this unexpected bill comes in, and you're like, okay, well, that happened, I'm not crazy about it, but how do I move out of this? How do I find the money I need, or I trust that the money will show up? And how can I release this heaviness and fear and feel good again? Well, trust is a big part of that. Trusting that what you're looked after, you're taken care of, what you need will show up, and then go back to your vision. So ascension isn't about just staying in the feel-good dimensions. It's about how quickly can you, use the tools and feel good about yourself and move into the higher dimensions.
Wow, that's a lot. It's really important and it's meaningful. I cannot believe that we've gone through our session already. I feel like we need another half
I
hour
know.
here
I'm like, oh
to
my
cover
gosh.
so many of these topics.
Yeah,
Are you open to providing a little healing or something for the group
sure.
as we end?
Absolutely. So I've got about a few minutes, okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Or 3 minutes?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So first of all, just put your hand on your heart and breathe into your heart. There you go. Just let your whole self relax. And all the stress, lack, limitation around money, appreciate it. Let's take a moment to appreciate it, because it's been showing you something about yourself, your life, your past that needs to be healed. So thank all of that for the healing. And now, allow yourself to let that go. Say, thank you, lack, and now I let you go. Thank you, scarcity, for the lessons you have blessed me with. And now I release you to the light. And I allow myself to feel expansive, supported, grounded, empowered, confident. And I allow myself to receive ever increasing amounts of money with flow, ease, grace. And I give myself permission to feel good about receiving ever increasing amounts of money. Thank you, universe. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. It was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. This session reminds us that abundance, it's not something we force or that we can think our way out of. That's what, that was an important point. It's something the body really learns to feel safe receiving. And when we soften out those old imprints and allow the nervous system to settle, flow becomes possible. I love that word. It's possible. It's possible in a much more natural way. Thank you, Joy, for sharing your wisdom, presence, and your lived experience. For the listeners out there, to learn more about Joy, you can go to her website, courageandaction.com. Thanks again, Joy.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.